Hello everyone and welcome to week 7. To start off, I first want to sincerely thank you for your participation in the mid-course survey. The detailed information that you provided really helps me as I consider the design for the second half of the course. Many of you shared that you have found these weekly videos helpful to get you ready and organized for the week. You also mentioned that the I3 model and having 3 distinct folders each week was very helpful. You also mentioned that the clear expectations for the assignments and the activities really let you know what was expected of you and allowed you to feel confident in the work that you submitted. Some folks did mention that the demands of the course varied from week to week, and they found some weeks to be heavier than others in terms of workload. I've tried to mitigate this by providing previews of the major assignments well before the due date to make sure that you have some flexibility when it comes to scheduling your time. I do appreciate your participation, and please know that as a department, we hold your voice in very high regard so that we can design really effective and impactful online experiences for you. One more thing before we get into the weekly expectations. I've read your case studies, and I have to say overall that I am very impressed. It is clear that you have taken advantage of the opportunity to spend time with an adult who has experienced the impact of a disability throughout their lives. You've allowed yourself to really reflect on that, and many of you within your work started to make connections between your role as an educator and the experiences of your individuals. One of the things that I was very particular about when scoring your work was the IDEA disability category. This is a really vital piece of understanding that I want to make sure that you leave this course with. You'll find in your work that the disability category will drive so much of the decisions made in regards to services, supports, and resources for that student, starting really with the eligibility process. In fact, some might argue starting with the RTI process. And that discussion of the disability category will be prevalent all through IEP creation and then continue on through progress monitoring and at the annual review date. So I really encourage you to take ownership of this information and really do some self-checks about yourself and make sure that you feel confident about this before the end of the course. So this week we will be exploring autism spectrum disorders. Notice that there is a plural on the word disorders. As usual, we've got a diverse set of resources. Many of you in the mid-course feedback acknowledge the IRIS modules as a really helpful tool, and so we've got one for autism this week as well. The goal, just like all the other disability categories, is to become really familiar with the disability, with the characteristics associated, and then the instructional implications. Again, this week there are some suggested resources that are optional. For those of you who are particularly interested in some of the hot topics that surround autism, such as the link or non-existent link perhaps between the diagnosis and vaccinations, I think you'll find the resources that I've included particularly impactful. This week's discussion board will give you the opportunity to share the reflections or the takeaways that you've had as a result of your adult case study and the interview process. I'm really looking forward to these discussion boards, particularly with you all, because I've had an opportunity to read all of the case studies, and I've noticed that there are some really distinct parallels between everyone's work. So I'm curious to see if you all identify the same parallels that I saw. Please let me know if you need anything and if there's anything that I could do to support your learning. Thanks so much.